husband told me that after the banquet ended, they slept only briefly. The next morning, they walked through Prague, a city that seemed to breathe history. He described the beauty of St. Vitus Cathedral, the Charles Bridge, the astronomical clock, the palace, the castle, and the old town square. To him, those were the true wonders of the world. Yet, as always, the Freemasons insisted on showing him the hidden corners, the places the public was never allowed to see. Secrets behind stone walls, chambers beneath cathedrals, passages that whispered of centuries past. By nightfall, they returned to the hotel. Black suits, black ties, aprons, and gloves. At 9:00 p.m., a driver awaited them. The destination, a church. They arrived at 11:30, with 30 minutes to spare. One of the Czech brothers began to recount the story of the place. It was St. George's Church, built in 1350. But in 1968, tragedy struck. The roof collapsed during a funeral, leaving the building abandoned for decades. In 2014, an artist transformed its ruins, adding moldings of human figures draped in sheets, turning them into silent ghosts. Brother Heineck welcomed them. "Dear brothers, let us go inside. But first, take one of these metal blocks. Keep it with you until the meeting ends. Welcome to the Church of Ghosts." The master, the professor, and my husband exchanged uneasy glances. Each block weighed about half a kilo, triangular in shape, cold to the touch. They carried them inside. The church was dark, its silence oppressive. Silhouettes stood frozen in the shadows. Then candles flickered to life, casting long, trembling shapes across the walls. They sat among the ghostly figures, and my husband confessed to me that unease gripped him. The air was heavy, the church old and damp, the moldings too lifelike. He said it felt as though the dead were watching. The master of the Prague Lodge spoke. "Brothers, welcome to one of the most exquisite meeting places for men like us. I hope you enjoyed the city, the party. Now, place your metal blocks in the lap of the molding beside you. Leave them there until the meeting is finished." They obeyed. Speeches began, voices echoing against the stone. But then, half an hour past midnight, the candles extinguished all at once. Darkness swallowed the room. A cold wind swept through the church, the floor creaked, and a thick fog rose from beneath the stones. My husband told me he felt something move beside him. He turned, and the head of the ghost next to him shifted. Slowly, impossibly, it turned to face him. Hollow eyes stared into his soul. He screamed, and then a voice spoke, not from the living, but from beyond time itself. "Brothers, dear brothers, do not be afraid. We come in peace. We are the Freemasons of the Grand Lodge beyond time. We have been here for eons, silently watching, ensuring you fulfill your duties. We could not be prouder than we are tonight. Greetings to all who came from distant lands. We are honored by your presence." Another voice followed, resonant, ancient. "Brothers, you are about to experience something." My husband told me that night was unlike anything he had ever experienced. The voices of the ghosts spoke in Czech, a language he did not know, yet somehow, impossibly, he understood every word. They instructed him, "Place your hands upon our foreheads, and we will take you on a journey through time." He obeyed. His hand touched the cold forehead of the spectral figure, and in that instant he felt a surge of enlightenment, as though secret knowledge poured into him. His eyes closed, but visions opened. He saw forests filled with strange animals, creatures that did not belong to this world. Then he was transported beneath the sea, where humanoid beings lived freely, their technology far beyond anything humanity had ever achieved. He witnessed kings and queens, empires rising and collapsing, kingdoms devoted to forgotten gods, ruins of cities suspended in the sky. He saw civilizations from distant stars visiting our planet, leaving behind traces of their presence. And then everything stopped. A man appeared before him, cloaked in a white hood, a large staff in his hand, a gray beard flowing down his chest. They were inside a tent in the desert. The man spoke. "Hello, traveler. Give me your hat." My husband said he obeyed without hesitation, as if compelled. The man then produced a strange object, a stone glowing red-hot, almost like coal, but not quite. He placed it in my husband's hand. My husband squeezed it, and when he opened his palm, the stone was gone. In its place hovered a red light, floating above his skin. He looked at the man with questioning eyes. The figure reached into a bag and pulled out a powder, odd and shimmering. He sprinkled it into the red light, then struck it with his staff, shouting, "Vaya, vaya." A violent explosion erupted, knocking my husband to the ground. Yet he was unharmed. When he awoke, or thought he awoke, he was back in the church. His hand was still extended, but the metal block he had been given earlier had changed. It was no longer dull and heavy. It gleamed gold. He could not believe his eyes. His mind buzzed with the visions he had seen, the impossible journey he had taken. The voices spoke again. "Brothers, this is alchemy. This is our gift to you. Be careful in your future journeys. Take this gold home as a reminder of what you have experienced tonight." He checked his watch. It was 6:30. The sun was rising, the fog had lifted, and the church was silent once more. Everything appeared normal, yet nothing was normal. They returned to Prague in silence. No one spoke for hours. Each man sat frozen, bewildered, clutching his golden triangle. My husband told me that as he stared at it, he realized it was the exact same ball of light he had held in his palm. He said that in that moment, he was no longer seeing only the wonders of the world. He was seeing its riches, its horrors, its hidden truths. And though he had once been a man who did not believe in such things, that night changed him forever. My husband confessed to me that before becoming a Freemason, he never believed in monsters, demons, or vampires. He thought such things belonged only to folklore and superstition. But 6 years of initiation and secret journeys had proven him wrong. He told me, "We are not alone. We were never alone, and we will never be alone." He had seen things that churned his stomach, things that made his heart nearly stop, things that forced him to question his very existence. And one of those experiences happened during what was supposed to be a simple vacation. It was last summer, before the pandemic. He and several brothers were invited to spend a few days on a property just outside the city of Cluj-Napoca, Romania. He described the city as beautiful, full of life, with incredible food and warm people. But the property itself was isolated, hidden in the heart of nature, surrounded by forests that seemed bent under the weight of unseen horrors. Behind the forest, a river rushed into the silence of the night. They arrived on a Friday evening. The property was dotted with small one-room houses, perfect for rest and retreat. They changed into casual clothes, gathered outside, and began to socialize. My husband, always fond of rustic traditions, suggested they skip the restaurants and prepare a barbecue themselves. The idea was welcomed, and soon the fire was lit, the smell of roasted meat filling the air. But as the night deepened, the atmosphere shifted. Screams echoed from the woods. At first, they thought it might be animals or perhaps drunken villagers. But the sound was too sharp, too human, too desperate. My husband and 4 other brothers took flashlights and ventured into the forest to investigate. He told me that as they walked deeper, time seemed to stretch. Every step felt heavier, every shadow more alive. The screams grew louder, pulling them toward the river. And then they saw her. A woman stood at the river's edge, dressed in white, her gown vaporous, almost made of clouds. She turned, and her face was the palest white he had ever seen. Her eyes were black voids, piercing, capable of freezing a man's soul. From those eyes, black liquid mixed with blood streamed down her cheeks. She moved toward them, fast, unnatural. They panicked and began to run. But when they turned, another figure hovered above them, floating in midair, watching like a predator. My husband said it was clear they were the hunted. The creatures of the night had come to feed. He remembered the legends of Eastern Europe, stories of the eel spirits of tormented women who lured men into madness. The tailies warned, never speak to them, never say their names. The spirits began to sing, their voices weaving a melody that was both beautiful and horrifying. They danced in circles around the brothers, their movements hypnotic. 2 of the men broke down, crying in terror. The others stood mesmerized, unable to move, trapped in the spell. My husband told me that in that moment, something inside him snapped. As if touched by grace, he regained control. He shouted, "Do not look at them. Close your eyes." The command broke the trance. The brothers obeyed, shutting their eyes tight, resisting the pull of the spirits. The singing grew louder, the air colder, but they held on, refusing to meet the gaze of the eel. And in that fragile act of defiance, they survived the night. My My husband confessed to me that not all of them escaped the spirits that night. One of the brothers could not turn his gaze away. He stared at the apparition, frozen, bewitched, as if her eyes had chained him to the spot. She came close, her voice soft and venomous, whispering, "Would you come with us, handsome?" She caressed his face, and he whispered back, "Yes, I want you." Before he could finish, the spirits lifted him into the air and carried him into the depths of the forest, vanishing into the blackness. My husband screamed, "No, brothers, snap out of it, we must go after him." They ran like madmen, stumbling through the forest, searching for houses, for lights, for any trace of their lost brother. But the forest gave nothing back. Hours passed, the screams faded, and by dawn the timid rays of sunlight crept into the woods, hesitant, as if afraid to pierce the darkness. Exhausted, dehydrated, and terrified, they returned to the property. There the rest of the brothers were waiting. They stepped aside, revealing the missing man seated in a chair. His head hung low. His hair had turned completely white, his body wasted, as if 20 pounds had vanished overnight. He could not speak. He mumbled incoherently, broken, almost vegetable-like. They explained what had happened. The others listened in shock, but they understood. They knew the horrors that lived among them, in places where humans should never tread. They called an ambulance, inventing a story to hide the truth. He was taken to a psychiatric hospital, where he remains confined to this day. The doctors diagnosed him with severe schizophrenia combined with dementia. They said he hallucinated about 5 women trying to drag him away, and at other times he danced alone in his padded room. My husband whispered to me, "Brother, I am sorry. We could not save you." But the story did not end there. In their private library, the Freemasons kept millions of documents, scrolls, poems, prose, records from the beginning of man. My husband was drawn to the writings of Eastern European folklore, searching for answers. One day, a strange brown leather journal fell from the shelves. It was a record of village life in Malacca, 15th century. But some pages described horrors. The diary of John Oskira, November 30th, 1437 AD, spoke of a village consumed by evil. His brother had disappeared, leaving only a pool of blood. Mist enshrouded the streets, screams echoed weakly, doors bolted shut, garlic hung from every home. The village was turning into a graveyard. Janos gathered his companions from the Lodge of Eternal Light. They spoke of a creature stalking the streets. Brother John recounted his encounter, footsteps doubling his own, a thin silhouette appearing before him, whispering, "I will eat your soul and drink your life." John prayed, but the creature mocked him. "Do you think your God cares for pests like you? God is dead." The description chilled my husband. Pale, thin, eyes glowing red, mouth bloody, teeth sharp. A living corpse. A strig. The lodge prepared for battle. Stakes, torches, silver crosses, holy water, garlic. They set a trap in the village square, drawing a circle of flammable material. 2 brothers acted as bait. Men waited on rooftops with arrows. At midnight, silence fell. The strigoi appeared, enraged. Before an arrow could fly, one brother was ripped apart, blood spilling into the dirt. Another tried to fight, but his throat was torn open. The beast fed like a mad animal, blinded by hunger. My husband rushed forward, throwing holy water. Steam rose from its flesh. He pressed a silver cross against its head, the creature shrieking in agony. He tried to drive a silver knife into its skull, but the monster blocked it, blood pouring from the wound. It escaped through a gap in the circle, vanishing into the night, leaving a trail of blood. They followed for hours, exhausted, until dawn. At last, they reached a cave. Inside lay a coffin, the strigoi's resting place. They dragged it out, opened the lid. The creature lay dormant, hideous, surrounded by a vile aura. My husband raised his knife, but then saw a piece of paper. It was a confession. If you are reading this, I am nearing the end I have awaited for 120 years. I was turned against my will. My name was Simeon, but now I have no name. The living dead bear no names. I wish to rest. Please end me in my sleep. I cannot stop the hunger. Leave me here to rot forever. Turn my head backwards and impale my broken heart. My husband told me he stood frozen, knife trembling in his hand. He had hunted a monster, but found a man begging for release. The others urged him to finish it, to drive the blade into the creature's chest. But he hesitated. He said the words on that paper echoed louder than the screams of the beast. Simeon had been cursed, turned against his will, forced to kill, forced to feed. He was not only a monster, he was a victim. The lodge debated in whispers. Some demanded vengeance, others spoke of mercy. My husband confessed to me that he wanted to end it, to free Simeon from his torment. But the professor stopped him, his voice cold. Do not act out of pity. This creature has slaughtered hundreds. He is too dangerous to be left alive, but too valuable to be destroyed. He is proof of what lies beyond death. They sealed the coffin again, leaving Simeon trapped in his eternal hunger. My husband said he could still hear the scratching from inside, the faint cries of a man who wanted release, but would never have it. That night, he told me, he could not sleep. He kept seeing Simeon's words, turn my head backwards and impale my broken heart. He wondered if mercy was the only true weapon against evil. But in the lodge, mercy was forbidden.